Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna do something different than my normal videos. Normally I post like live performances or vlogs and stuff, but today I thought it'd be fun to go through my CD and vinyl collection. I am an avid music lover. Obviously I'm a musician, but I'm a fan of a lot of artists, so I collect a lot of CDs and vinyls for those artists. So I'm kind of gonna go in alphabetical order and sort of just like say some of my favorites from those artists, whether or not I've seen them in concert, because I've seen a lot of my favorite artists in concert. I've been lucky enough to experience that. So yeah, we're gonna start from A to Z, so I'll show you my collection. Actually, I lied when I said I'm gonna start from A to Z because we're gonna start with 5 Seconds of Summer. So first we have 5 Seconds of Summer's debut album. I want to say this, they had their A side and B side. I want to say this is the B side, correct me if I'm wrong, but this song has some of their most iconic songs, such as She Looks So Perfect, Don't Stop, Good Girls, Amnesia. I would say my favorite songs off this album are probably End Up Here, She Looks So Perfect, Miss All American. Those are some of my favorites. And then I also have on vinyl their second album, Sounds Good, Feels Good. This is actually, I would say, my favorite album by them because it has my favorite song by them. This album has a lot of other popular songs. Is one of the most popular songs, She's Kinda Hot, one of their songs that they're known for. And I would say my favorite song on this album, my favorite song, 5 Seconds of Summer song in general, is Jet My Car. I got to experience that live when I saw them in tour last year for the 5SOS show, and literally a life-changing experience. I also have on CD their song Youngblood, which includes the title track Youngblood. My favorite song from this, I probably would say, is either Valentine or Why Don't You Love Me. And then lastly, I have on both vinyl and CD their album Calm. This is also one of my favorite albums by them, which includes another popular song by them, Teeth, which is one of my favorite songs as well. I would say I love they have a live version that's out. I'm obsessed with that version. But I would say besides that, my favorite songs on this album is Lover of Mine and Red Desert. Okay, now starting off with our A's, we have Alanis Morissette's album Jagged Little Pill on CD and vinyl. I grew up listening to this album. This is actually my mom's CD that I took from her. Sorry, Mom. I just love this album, and then I ended up buying it on vinyl. This song includes some of our most popular songs, You Oughta Know, Right Through You, Head Over Feet. And I would say those songs, My Hand in My Pocket as well. I would say those songs are probably some of my favorites. Like Right Through You is a favorite, Ironic, a favorite, and iconic song. Such a good album, like lyrically wise, and like if you're into like the pop angsty stuff, it's like right in between both. So a huge fan of Alanis Morissette. Next we have Ariana Grande with her most recent album, Eternal Sunshine. This is the only Ariana album I own. I've always been a big fan of her. I just never was a fan enough to collect any of her albums, but something about this album was just so lyrically beautiful. My sister is a huge fan, so my sister has all of her vinyls and albums and all that stuff. This is the only one I have. But I would say my favorite song off of this one is probably We Can't Be Friends or Imperfect For You. A really great album. Next we have Ash with her debut album Ashland. This is my favorite album by her. It's also the only album I have on CD. She has her album Ray and her recent album Wilson, which I have yet to get, but I love those albums as well. But I would say my favorites from this one include the iconic Till Forever Falls Apart with Phineas, Moral of the Story with Niall Horan, which is how I heard of her through being a Niall Horan fan. I heard that song for the first time, and then I started listening to her own music. Also her song Always, as well as Save Myself, Me Without You, Love Is Not Enough, just a no-skip album in general. So we have one of my favorite albums of all time I have on both CD and vinyl is Ben Platt's debut album, Sing To Me Instead. I am obsessed with Ben Platt. I love his recent releases as well, but this will always be a favorite. Some of my favorites are probably Save Your Address, In Case You Don't Live Forever, Honest Man, Grow As We Go, on both CD and vinyl, one of my favorite albums of all time. Next we have an album I also stole from my mom. I grew up listening to Bon Jovi, so like that sort of got me into more of classic rock. I would say he's one of my favorite classic rock artists because he's the one I grew up listening to the most. This is his New Jersey album. Includes songs Bad Medicine, Born to Be My Baby, I'll Be There For You, Lay Your Hands On Me. I would say my favorite song from this album is I'll Be There For You. I have a tattoo for it on my back that my mom has like a matching one of. This is her CD. Sorry Mom, stole your CD, but I love this album. Next up, we have Boy Genius with their album The Record. This is the only Boy Genius I have on CD or vinyl. I want the CD, but the CD is like $20 at like Barnes & Noble, so I have yet to buy it. But I have the vinyl, and I would say some of my favorite songs from it are $20, With Me Without Them, Cool About It, Emily I'm Sorry, and Not Strong Enough. Next we have Conan Gray. I have his CD version of Kid Crow. This includes his songs Wish You Were Sober, Maniac, Checkmate, Heather, some of his more iconic songs. I would say my favorite song from this album is probably The Cut That Always Bleeds or Comfort Crowd. I also have his album Super 8 on both CD and vinyl. I have the Target version, and then I want to say this is like the original version. I could be wrong, but this includes some songs such as Astronomy, Yours, People Watching, Memories, Family Line. I would say my favorite song from this is probably either Jigsaw, People Watching, or Astronomy. Such a good album. That's why I have it on both. Next up we have Darren Criss. His debut Homework EP includes 5 tracks. Foolish Thing, I Dreamed a Dream, Going Nowhere, I Don't Mind, The Day That the Dance is Over. I would say my favorite is The Day That the Dance is Over. It's also signed. I also have his Christmas album, A Very Darren Christmas. My sister got it for me when she saw him on tour. I wasn't able to go, so her and a friend went in my place and they came back and got me this vinyl. And it's a lot of your basic Christmas covers. I don't necessarily have a favorite because it's a lot of Christmas songs, but I'm very excited to listen to this when the Christmas season comes. Next up we have one of my all-time favorite artists, and that is Gracie Abrams. I have her album Good Riddance on both CD and vinyl. It's the only one I have from her. I have yet to get her new album, The Secret of Us, which is also one of my favorites. She's really hard to find on CD and vinyl. I know that one is out, I just have yet to be able to get it. I also have seen her album, This Is What It Feels Like, on vinyl. I just have yet to get it. One day I will get all of her music on vinyl and CD because I love her. I was grateful to experience her opening for the Eras Tour twice, last year in 2023 in Tampa and this year 2024 in Miami. And she is such an amazing artist and inspired me a lot with my music. Lyricism is so beautiful, and just like the way, I really love the sound of her music. So I do have this album on both CD and vinyl. And my favorite from this album would probably be I Know It Won't Work. Overall, a no skips album. Love Gracie Abrams. Next up we have another favorite artist of mine, and that would be Harry Styles. I have all 3 of his albums on CD. We have HS1, which includes the iconic song Sign of the Times. I would say some of my favorites from this album is probably Kiwi, Ever Since New York, Sweet Creature, Carolina. Such a good album. Then we have Fine Line, which includes a lot more iconic songs, Watermelon Sugar, Adore You, Treat People with Kindness. My favorite from this album is probably either Lights Up, To Be So Lonely, or She. I don't have the vinyl of either of these. I do have both the vinyl and CD of his most recent album, Harry's House, which includes some iconic songs such as It Was, Late Night Talking, Matilda. I would say my favorite from this album is probably either Music for a Sushi Restaurant, Daylight, Matilda, Daydreaming, or Keep Driving. Such an iconic album, no skips. I need to get these 2 on vinyl. One day I will. Harry's vinyls are not cheap, which is why I only own 1. But I have all 3 on CD, so I'll take it as a win. Next up we have Joshua Bassett, Sad Songs in a Hotel Room EP. This is his only EP that he has on a vinyl. He has no CDs. I don't think there's, to my knowledge, I don't think there is a CD or vinyl for his recent album, The Golden Years. If there is, I have to get it, have yet to get it. This includes 6 songs, Sad Songs in a Hotel Room, LA, Used to It, Smoke Slow, Lifeline, All in Due Time. My favorite song on this is definitely All in Due Time. I have a tattoo for it as well. I also was able to see him in concert for his first concert, The Complicated Tour. I wasn't able to see him on his Golden Years tour because my show got canceled, unfortunately. Hopefully one day I will see him again because another favorite artist of mine. So we have Kelly Clarkson's greatest hits, which include her greatest hits, including Since You've Been Gone, My Life Would Suck Without You, Behind These Hazel Eyes, Breakaway, Mr. Know-It-All, Catch My Breath. It also includes some features, Jason Aldean on Don't You Wanna Stay, which is one of my favorite songs, and Vince Gill on Don't Rush. I would say my favorites are probably Don't You Wanna Stay, Breakaway, Because of You, Behind These Hazel Eyes, love Kelly Clarkson, obviously needed a greatest hits to listen to all my favorites by her. Next up, we have Liam Payne's album LP1, Rest in Peace. I thought it would be disrespectful of me not to include his album in this. Includes obviously his iconic single, Strip That Down. I would say a lot of the songs on this album are underrated. Like, he was most known for that one song, but a lot of my favorite songs on this album include Live Forever, Remember, Heart Meets Break, Polaroid, and then For You featuring Rita Ora. This is a great album, and I would say if you haven't listened to it, there are a couple songs on here I don't necessarily like. There are some skips on this album, I will say, but there are also some really good songs on here too, and I'm really disappointed we never will get to see what he was working on with his second album. I'm hoping maybe the producer will release it one day so that we can see all the stuff he's been was so proud of to be writing. Next up, we have one of my favorite artists, and that is Louis Tomlinson. We have his debut album, Walls. My favorite songs on this one, honestly, this is a no-skip album. I love every single song on this album, but I would say my favorites are Don't Let It Break Your Heart, Always You, Defenseless. I also have a second album, Faith in the Future. We have this one, I think this is the Target version, where it has like a little, like, it changes. This one has his Live from Lima, Copy of a Copy of a Copy, which is my favorite Louis Tomlinson song off this album. Also the song Paradise, this is like a deluxe version. I would say besides Copy of a Copy of a Copy, my favorite songs on this album would be Written All Over Your Face, Out of My System, Silver Tongues, and Saturdays. I also have the little booklet version, which doesn't have any different songs from the original one. It's just the booklet version is what makes it deluxe, but it came with its CD in its own. I got to experience this tour live, Faith in the Future, and it was probably the best tour I've ever gone to. Definitely my top 5 for sure. He is one of my all-time favorite artists and was so underrated in like the One Direction era. So if you haven't listened to his solo music, I strongly recommend it because it is so good. Next up, we have Melanie Martinez, Cry Baby. This includes a lot of her iconic songs, including the title track Cry Baby, Dollhouse, Sippy Cup, Pity Party. I was a really big fan of her in like middle school, early high school, so that's why this is the only one I have on CD. I don't really listen to a lot of her new stuff. I'm sure it's great, but I would say my favorite songs on this album are Mad Hatter, Dollhouse, Alphabet Boy, or So. Continuing One Direction solo music, next up we have Niall Horan. I have all 3 of his albums on CD. First one we have Flicker, which is his debut album, which includes his most popular song on this album is probably This Town, which is also another favorite of mine. I also love the song Seen Blind featuring Maren Morris, Since We're Alone, On My Own, and Mirrors. Then we have his second album, Heartbreak Weather, which I have on both CD and vinyl. This includes some of the iconic songs. Heartbreak Weather is the title track, Small Talk, Nice to Meet Ya, Put a Little Love on Me. My favorites from this album are probably Put a Little Love on Me, Cross Your Mind, No Judgment, Still, and Dear Patience. I'm lucky to get both of these on CD and vinyl. And then lastly for Niall, we have his most recent album, The Show. I want to say this is the Target cover. There is a different cover, I just don't have it. Happen to have the same for both. But this has his most popular song from this album is probably his song Heaven or Meltdown. My favorite song from this album is probably either Save My Life, Science, or Never Grow Up. I got to see him live for The Show live on tour earlier this year in 2024, which he sang a mix of all 3 albums, but it was mainly a lot of songs from this album. Such a good album. If you have not listened to this album or as well as his other 2 albums, I strongly recommend it. Next up we have Olivia Rodrigo. I have her album Sour. Both are the Target exclusives. I usually get the Target exclusive CD or vinyl because they usually come with the poster, and I love putting the posters on my wall. So that's why these are both the same, and a lot of mine probably are the same. But this has her iconic song Driver's License, as well as Good For You, Deja Vu. I would say my favorite from this album is probably either Deja Vu, Happier, Jealousy, Jealousy, or Favorite Crime. I also have her album Guts on CD, as well as we have the Target cover and her Spotify exclusive vinyl. This one features her Guts Deluxe track Obsessed. When you play it all the way through, it like has like a moment of silence and then the song starts playing. It's the first time I heard this song before she released the deluxe version, and it's such a pretty cover. This album includes the iconic Bad Idea Right, Vampire. I would say my favorites from this album are probably either Ballad of a Homeschool Girl, Making the Bed, The Grudge, All American Bitch, and honestly this is a no-skip album. Both of her albums are no skips. I am a huge Olivia Rodrigo fan. I was able to see her in concert for both Sour and Guts tour. Best nights of my life. And I'll probably say that about every concert, but every concert is the best night of my life. So next up we have the iconic One Direction. I have all 5 albums on CD. However, I no longer have the cover to Up All Night. I used to have the limited yearbook edition, which had like the booklet, had a bunch of like pictures of them and stuff. I had the CD since I was like 10 years old. I have no idea what happened to that booklet. Now it's in my CD case. I would say my favorites on Up All Night are probably either Taken or Moments. The yearbook edition of their second album, Take Me Home. Like I said, it comes with a CD and then has a bunch of pictures and like little quotes and like letters from them. That Up All Night one was the same as that. I would say this one was my favorite for a while. It includes the iconic Kiss You, Live While We're Young. I would say my favorites are probably either They Don't Know About Us, She's Not Afraid, Nobody Compares, Over Again, Back For You. Honestly, every single album of theirs is a no skip, so they're all my favorite. Midnight Memories features some of their most iconic pop hits, including Best Song Ever, Story of My Life, and the title track, Midnight Memories. So my favorites are probably either Don't Forget Where You Belong, Happily, Something Great, Through the Dark. Again, another no skip. Next we have their album 4, which I have on vinyl. It's so hard to find One Direction vinyls nowadays, but I was lucky enough to find this edition of 4. And then I have the ultimate edition of booklet version of 4, which again came with the CD and it has like a bunch of pictures from the album photo shoot. This includes their iconic song Steal My Girl. And some of my favorites from this one are probably either Ready to Run, Fool's Gold, the iconic Night Changes, and lastly their last album, Made in the AM, another one I was lucky enough to find the vinyl for, has the iconic Drag Me Down, Perfect. I would say a lot of my favorites are on this album. I love the song Hey Angel, If I Could Fly, Long Way Down, What a Feeling, Love You Goodbye. Again, every single album of theirs is a non-skip. I'm lucky enough to be able to say I saw them on their Where We Are tour in like 2014. Now that probably was the best night of my life, and something a lot of people aren't able to say is that they saw One Direction in concert. My favorite band. I could talk about them forever, and I have. I need to get the rest of the albums on vinyl somehow. One day I will, but for now, I'm lucky enough to have 2. So now I'm not a huge fan of them anymore, but I used to be. I have Panic at the Disco's Death of a Bachelor album on CD. I've seen them in concert probably like 3 times. I saw the Death of the Bachelor tour, Pray for the Wicked tour, and the recent, or I guess somewhat recent, Viva Las Vengeance tour. I'm not exactly sure what the last album was called. That one, I never listened to the recent album. I went with my sister who knew a couple songs and didn't have as much fun on that tour as I did when I saw Death of a Bachelor and Pray for the Wicked. 2 really great albums. I would say my favorite on this album is LA Devotee or The Good, the Bad, and the Dirty. Next up we have the iconic Renee Rapp. I have her EP. It's a signed EP as well. I'm not exactly sure if you can see with the reflection, but signed EP. It's about 9 tracks, has Everything to Everyone intro, In the Kitchen, Colorado, Don't Tell My Mom, What Can I Do, Too Well, Moon, Bruises, and Everything to Everyone, the extended version. My favorite on this album is probably Bruises or In the Kitchen. And then I have her debut album, Snow Angel, on CD and vinyl, which I have, again, the Target edition. It came with a posters on my wall. I would say my favorite songs from this album are probably Talk Too Much, I Hate Boston, Pretty Girls, Tummy Hurts, Poison Poison, and then title track Snow Angel. Again, no skips album. If you haven't listened to Renee Rapp's music, like, I strongly recommend you do so. She is amazing. Next we have Sabrina Carpenter. I have both her album Emails I Can't Send as well as her recent album Short and Sweet. I have also been a fan of her since I was younger, but I don't have any of the older ones on CD, and I don't have either of them on vinyl, unfortunately. But this includes the title track Emails I Can't Send as well as the iconic song Nonsense. And one of my favorite songs I would say from this is Skinny Dipping, How Many Things, and Because I Liked a Boy, Tornado Warning. And I was lucky enough to be able to experience this album twice on tour, once in 2022 and then 2023 when she did the second leg of the American tour. Such a great concert. Next we have Short and Sweet, which I wasn't able to see in concert. However, such a good album in general. Again, no skips. Includes the iconic Espresso, Please Please Please, Good Graces, Bed Chem, you name it, it's a hit. I would say some of my favorites from this are probably Bed Chem, Good Graces, Lie to Girls. Every song on this I'm obsessed with, and I'm obsessed with her. And I really want these albums on vinyl so bad. Next up we have Selena Gomez and The Scene. You know when it's Selena Gomez and The Scene that it's a hit. I was obsessed with this album when I was younger. It has the iconic Round and Round, A Year Without Rain. Honestly, every single song of this is a no skip. Her song Rock God, Ghost of You, Off the Chain, Summer's Not Hot. Single song so good. I was obsessed with this album when I was younger, obsessed with this album now, obsessed with Selena Gomez forever. Next up we have Shawn Mendes. This is another CD I do not have the case for anymore because I've had this CD since I was literally a kid. This is the Shawn Mendes EP, his very first EP. Has 4 tracks: Life of the Party, One of Those Nights, Show You, and The Wait. Honestly, all 4 of those tracks are some of my favorites. I have been like a fan of his since the Vine days, and that's why I have his very first EP. I remember sitting up waiting for Life of the Party to drop, his debut single. And then we also have his debut album, Handwritten, which includes Life of the Party, as well as the iconic Stitches. My favorite songs from this are probably Aftertaste or Something Big, which is another popular song of his. A Little Too Much, This Is What It Takes. Honestly, such a good album for his first album. I also have Handwritten on vinyl. This one's, it kind of got messed up when I was moving. The vinyl itself still works, and it's so pretty on vinyl as well as on CD. Pretty album in general. Next we have his album Illuminate. I was able to see this album on tour. Such a great concert and such a great album. I would say my favorites from this one are 3 Empty Words, Don't Be a Fool, Bad Reputation, and then this album also includes the bonus tracks Hold On, Roses, and Mercy, the acoustic version. And then lastly, I have his album Wonder on vinyl. I would say this is my favorite album by him. I really wish I had this one on CD as well, but it's such a good album, and like just the album itself is so pretty. It has the title track Wonder, which is one of my favorite songs as well, as Dream, Always Been You, Look at the Stars, Can't Imagine, and so on. It's a no-skip album. Next up we have Tate McRae with her album I Used to Think I Could Fly. Every single song on this album is a hit. Every single song Tate McRae makes is a hit. Onto the artist I own the most vinyls and CDs of, and that is Taylor Swift. Starting off with Debut, which I do not have the case for. Another CD I've owned forever. This was her debut album. She released it when she was like 15. Like Picture to Burn, Should Have Said No, Tim McGraw, some of her more hits from this album, but I would say my favorite off of her debut album is A Place in This World. Next up we have her album Fearless. So I no longer own any of the original non-Taylor's version CDs or vinyls. I used to, and as she released the Taylor's versions, I stopped listening to them for obvious reasons and just don't have them anymore. I think I might have given them to my sister, honestly. But we have Taylor's version, which has 27 tracks, and that's including all of her vault tracks. Every single album by Taylor is iconic, but some of my favorites from this one are Change, White Horse, Tell Me Why, You're Not Sorry, and then for her vault tracks, my favorite is probably Mr. Perfectly Fine. Next up we have Speak Now, Taylor's version. Again, don't have the OG Speak Now, and that is completely okay because we don't listen to those anymore. We listen to Taylor's version. This has a lot more features for the vault tracks. It has Electric Touch featuring Fall Out Boy, Castle Crumbling featuring Hayley Williams, and just some iconic songs such as Back to December, Enchanted, and then Better Than Revenge, which has the Change lyrics. I personally prefer the OG, but I'm okay with the Change lyrics too, I guess. And then my favorite is definitely Long Live. Next up we have Red, and this is the only non-Taylor's version item I have. Out of the ones that have Taylor's versions is Red, Taylor Swift, and then we also have Red, Taylor's version, of course, CD and vinyl. This one has a lot more songs, as you can tell, including All Too Well 10-minute version, which is iconic to say the least. This one has collabs featuring Phoebe Bridgers, as well as Chris Stapleton, Ed Sheeran. I would say some of my favorites on this are our song Treacherous, Nothing New featuring Phoebe Bridgers, I Bet You Think About Me featuring Chris Stapleton. Next up we have 1989 Taylor's version. Finally, I have 2 different covers of my CD and vinyl. This one has some iconic songs, including Welcome to New York, Out of the Woods, Blank Space, Style. I would say some of my favorites are probably Clean, Wonderland, the vault track, We Have Slut, Now That We Don't Talk, Suburban Legends, Is It Over Now, and then there's a bonus track on the vinyl version of Sweeter Than Fiction. And then I have the pink Target version of the CD, which doesn't include the bonus track. Next, we have Reputation. Obviously, this and Debut are the ones I don't have Taylor's versions of, seeing as there aren't Taylor's versions yet. Fingers crossed, we are getting them soon, so I don't have to listen to non-Taylor's version anymore. But overall, one of her most iconic albums, seeing as it's so different from all the other ones in the genre of music. Every single song on this is probably my favorite. Another no skips album by Taylor. And then next we have Lover. I have, for the CD, came in this like deluxe little journal book. It has like blank pages at the end, but then like a lot of pictures and like entries from her. And then we have the vinyl. This includes some iconic songs such as You Need to Calm Down, I Forgot That You Existed, Cruel Summer, Lover, The Man. My favorite song from this album is The Archer. I have a tattoo for The Archer. Such a beautiful, lyrically written album. Next up we have part 1 of her sister album that she released in 2020, and this is Folklore. This is probably my favorite album by Taylor. I have both on CD and vinyl. It includes some great songs such as the Betty, James, August trilogy. We have Cardigan, Betty, August, and then the Mirrorball. This one has the bonus tracks of The Lakes. I would say my favorite is probably either The Lakes, This Is Me Trying, or Illicit Affairs. Honestly, every single song on this is amazing. That's why it's my favorite album. And then next we have this sister to Folklore, and that's Evermore, one of her more underrated albums, which has some just as good songs. We have a lot of features on this one. We have Nobody No Crime featuring Haim, Coney Island featuring The National, and Evermore featuring Bon Iver. This also has the bonus tracks of Right Where You Left Me and It's Time to Go. I would say my favorite is probably either Tolerate It, Nobody No Crime, Champagne Problems, Gold Rush, Willow, basically every song on the album. For an album that isn't my favorite of hers, for some reason I have the most different copies of it, and that is Midnights. I have 2 vinyls of it. We have the, I believe this is the Moonstone, and then this is the Jade. I could be wrong on these names, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But they also form a clock on the end. I never got all the ones to form the full clock because I don't have that kind of money, so. And then we have CDs. I have 3 versions of the CD. Don't ask me why, I truly don't know. But we have the Moonstone CD, this is the Lavender Target edition, and then I want to say this is like the Before Dawn is what it's called, but this one features Snow on the Beach featuring Lana Del Rey, or featuring more Lana Del Rey, Karma featuring Ice Spice, we have You're Losing Me, and then all the late night tracks. This one, the Target version, has bonus tracks, Hits Different, You're On Your Own Kid Strings remix, and Sweet Nothing piano remix. And then this one doesn't have the vault tracks, it just has the 13 tracks. But I would say some of my favorites from Midnights are probably You're On Your Own Kid, Snow on the Beach, Labyrinth, Sweet Nothing, Question, basically every song. And I seem to have the most different copies of this album. And last from Taylor Swift, we have her most recent album, The Tortured Poets Department. I have her CD is the Bolter version, and then we have the manuscript album, which, okay, this is a stunning, both of these are stunning album covers. This includes Fortnite featuring Post Malone, Florida featuring Florence and the Machine. This one has the bonus track Manuscript, this one has bonus track The Bolter. I would say my favorites from this album are probably Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, Guilty as Sin, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, The Smallest Man That Ever Lived, The Alchemy. And I'm grateful enough to say I went to the Eras tour twice. I think I mentioned a little earlier when I was talking about Gracie Abrams, but I saw her in Tampa 2023, and then I saw her in Miami 2024. I've also went to the Reputation Stadium tour in 2017, and my very first concert ever was Speak Now, and in like 2011. I'm not 100% sure on that year, but grateful to have seen her so many times. She's my favorite artist. As you can see, I literally have a poster of her right here. More posters where you can't see, but live, love, Taylor Swift. Next up, we have 21 Pilots album, Clancy. I am more of a newer fan for 21 Pilots. My best friend is a huge 21 Pilots fan, so they got me into them. I love a lot of their older albums. Like I remember listening to Blurry Face and songs from Vessel in middle school. I just never really got into them too much until they released Clancy, which is such a great album. It has some of their singles were Overcompensate, Next Semester, Backslide. Every single song on this honestly is so good, but I would say some of my favorites are probably Next Semester, Midwest Indigo, Routines in the Night, Navigating, Oldie Station. Such a good album, and I recently saw them in concert for their Clancy tour. Such a great show, such a great concert, such a great band. And lastly, to end this out with some great music, we have Zayn. I have 2 albums from Zayn, 2 of my favorite albums by him. We have Nobody Is Listening, which came out in like 2020, features some really great songs. Some of my favorites are probably Better, Vibes, Tightrope, River Road, Calamity. Such a great album. And then we have his most recent album, Room Under the Stairs, which has some of my favorites from this album are Dreaming, What I Am, Alienated, Stardust, Birds on a Cloud, Shoot at Will, If You Should See, and I am seeing him in concert next year, and I am so excited. I've never seen Zayn in concert besides when I saw One Direction. It's his very first concert of his solo career, so I am beyond excited. And if you haven't listened to his solo music, I strongly recommend you do so. So that was all my CDs and vinyls. I know I have so many, and I don't plan on stopping getting them anytime soon. I honestly have more than what I showed. I have a lot of like Disney Channel, I have a lot of musicals on CD, but I wanted to show more of just like the specific artists that I enjoy, because I didn't want to make this too much longer by showing you every single Disney Channel or Glee CD that I have. But yeah, I promise you that's not even all of them. But if you watched this far, thank you for watching. I hope you got some good music recommendations from this. And if you have any music recommendations for me, drop them below. I will gladly listen to them. I'm always open to listening to new artists. And I'm also an artist myself, so I understand like the love and connection between loving an artist and listening to music. So yeah, thanks for watching.